Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Friday, May 22nd, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, China's hosting hundreds of representatives and business delegates from the 21 APEC economies in the city of Suzhou. China will be marking the 75th anniversary of the peaceful liberation of the Xizang region, also known as Tibet, on Saturday. And China's announced significant environmental progress as the country marks the International Day for Biological Diversity. In business, China's economy shows vitality despite a few fluctuations in the April numbers. In sports, Cristiano Ronaldo earns his first silverware in the Saudi League. In culture and entertainment, a preview of the World Cup halftime show. Now checking the day's top stories. China's hosting the APEC Trade Ministers Meeting in Suzhou. Around 700 representatives from 21 APEC economies and international organizations are attending the event in the eastern city, alongside topics such as regional economic integration and support for the multilateral trading system. This year's agenda also highlights digital cooperation and green economic development. International companies are also holding exchanges aimed at strengthening industrial cooperation and achieving mutual benefit. Chen Tong has more.
Not far from Shanghai, Suzhou is an Asian water town known for its beautiful scenery. But it also boasts a robust economic vitality and outstanding trade performance. That's why Suzhou is selected as the host city for APEC Trade Ministers Meeting. The trade minister will exchange views and advance cooperation. Priorities include strengthening the multilateral trading system, advancing regional economic integration, and fostering new drivers of trade and investment. The focus is on creating a more open, stable, and predictable trade environment. This includes deepening cooperation in emerging sectors, including the digital economy, green development, and supply chain resilience. In addition to APEC meetings, a variety of promotional activities are also being held. Suzhou is seeking continued foreign investment. Today, the city is one of China's economic powerhouses. In 2025, its GDP reached over $380 billion, ranking 6th among Chinese cities and approximately 20th globally. The size of its foreign trade has long ranked among the top 3 or 4 nationwide. And the water town is expected to become a window to send out a signal that China is open for cooperation, as willing to reinforce its role to strengthen regional cooperation.
That was Chen Tong reporting from Suzhou. The trade ministers' meeting comes amid rising uncertainty in the global economy. Dai Kai spoke with Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao on the priorities for this year's meeting and China's agenda as host of APEC 2026.
Minister Wang, thank you for joining us. What message does China hope to send to the region and the world?
重点领域包括推进区域经济一体化和亚太自贸区进程。
This year's APEC Trade Ministers Meeting will focus on key areas, including advancing regional economic integration and a free trade area of the Asia-Pacific, supporting the WTO in strengthening digital cooperation and developing the green economy. At present, the international situation is becoming more complex. Geopolitical tensions are intensifying. Unilateralism and protectionism are on the rise. And the international economic and trade order is facing severe challenges. Global and Asia-Pacific development has been impacted. Against such a backdrop, all parties have higher expectations for this trade ministers' meeting to build consensus and deliver outcomes.
China officially joined APEC in 1991. Looking back over the past 3.5 decades, how has China contributed to economic and trade cooperation in the Asia-Pacific region?
你刚才说到了中国加入亚太经合组织35年，这35年来
As you mentioned, this year marks the 35th anniversary of China joining APEC. Over the past 35 years, China has always been a firm supporter and an important contributor to APEC. By 2025, China had become the largest trading partner of 13 APEC economies. Trade between China and APEC economies reached $3.7 trillion, accounting for 57.8% of China's total foreign trade. China has signed 24 free trade agreements or economic and trade arrangements with 31 countries and regions, including 15 APEC economies. In recent years, China has also completed upgrades of free trade agreements with APEC economies such as Singapore and Peru. Adhering to the principle of pursuing shared benefits, we actively share the opportunities of China's mega-sized market and development.
中国开放的大门只会越开越大。
China's door of opening up will only open wider. In the face of common challenges, China will continue to fulfill its responsibilities as a major country, further deepen reform, expand high-level opening up, and continue to provide new opportunities for the Asia-Pacific and the world through new achievements in Chinese modernization.
That was Commerce Minister Wang Wentao on China's ties with APEC and efforts to contribute to development. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says Islamabad's relations with China have continued to grow in strength and strategic significance amid changing regional and global dynamics. He reaffirmed the enduring strength of ties in a message marking 75 years of diplomatic relations. Sharif said the friendship has steadily evolved into a robust partnership built on mutual trust, sovereign equality, and shared aspirations for peace and development. He said China's progress continues to contribute to global peace and prosperity. He said China's support has played a key role in Pakistan's socio-economic development, particularly through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The Prime Minister will pay a 4-day official visit to China starting Saturday. China said leaders from the two countries will exchange ideas on bilateral ties and issues of common concern and chart the course for the development of China-Pakistan relations. The Foreign Ministry said China hopes that both sides will take the visit as an opportunity to carry forward the traditional friendship, deepen cooperation, and write a new chapter in building an even closer China-Pakistan community with a shared future in the new era. And from infrastructure and energy to industry and technology, the corridor known as CPEC remains at the center of the China-Pakistan partnership. Daniel Kong reports from Islamabad.
Pakistan and China are marking 75 years of diplomatic ties with renewed emphasis on economic cooperation and regional connectivity. Officials from both countries say the relationship has evolved far beyond a traditional diplomacy into what they describe as an all-weather strategic partnership. At the center of this partnership remains the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC. Launched more than a decade ago, the multi-billion-dollar initiative helped deliver major infrastructure and energy projects across Pakistan. But now both sides say the focus is shifting toward what many here call CPEC Phase 2.
In this new phase, we will see greater business-to-business cooperation. We will see modernization of agriculture in Pakistan. We will see greater people-to-people contact, particularly in the area of human resource development, in the area of technology cooperation.
Officials in Islamabad also say improving security and investor confidence remain key priorities as Pakistan seeks greater Chinese investment. Meanwhile, Chinese analysts say Pakistan continues to hold strategic importance in Beijing's regional connectivity vision.
Now all private section come to Pakistan for doing business in the solar energy and environment treatment or some technical field, mostly in the service and product field.
With Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's upcoming visit to China, analysts here say the partnership is also gaining significance amid global economic uncertainty and shifting geopolitical dynamics.
The current situation also needs these type of positive steps to meet with the different countries, representatives, countries, people, to do different visits, to bring peace, stability in the region.
Officials from both countries say the coming years will focus on expanding practical cooperation and accelerating economic projects as Islamabad and Beijing continue to project their partnership as one built on long-term strategic trust.
As Pakistan and China mark 75 years of diplomatic relations, both countries are looking to deepen economic cooperation through trade, investment, and the next phase of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, a partnership both sides describe as strategic and long-term.
That was Daniel Kahn reporting. Coming up, marking the anniversary of Xizang's peaceful liberation.
On the roof of the world, 75 years of peace have crafted a masterpiece of human progress. A land once out of beat with the times, now singing with the rhythm of a new era.
It is a renaissance where ancient notes meet modern melodies. Xizang Soul is a vibrant, evolving treasure for the world to hear.
Green energy isn't just a concept.
It's the power of cooling massive data centers and bringing fresh harvests to every plateau table year-round.
A new generation is growing up with roots deep in tradition and eyes fixed on the horizon.
From the first road open to the plateau to the modern arteries of today, this one has been redefined by the sheer will to connect and thrive.
We invite you to witness a transformation that transcends time, to feel the heartbeat of a modernized Xizang, and to hear the stories written in the clouds.
Join CGTN for a special journey across the plateau. Ascending Xizang.
At 12 minutes past the hour. Saturday marks the 75th anniversary of Xizang's peaceful liberation. On May 23, 1951, China's central government signed an agreement known as the 17-Article Agreement with the local government. The document defined the overall framework for Xizang's development and governance. It reaffirmed that Xizang is an inseparable part of China, ending foreign intrusion that had persisted for decades. The agreement preserved Xizang's existing political and religious systems, while affirming the authority of the Central People's Government. The central government took full responsibility for Xizang's border security and external relations, and all foreign-related affairs have since been managed by central authorities. Reporter Guo Yan stepped into the China Tibetology Research Center and sat down with a young Tibetan scholar who's given lectures at the United Nations Human Rights Council. Born and raised in Tibetan areas, Dr. Sonam Drolma received modern education through the boarding school system and later became a scholar of Tibetan Buddhism. She shares her personal journey and reflections on education, culture, and the transformation of life in Xizang over the past 75 years.
Dr. Drolma, you grew up receiving modern education, and now you become a scholar of Tibetan Buddhism who speaks at international platforms like the UN. Looking back on your journey, how has this education shaped your life?
Looking back, I think the education gave me a new life. When we talk about the education, I started my boarding school education in middle school, and I think I benefited a lot from the system of the boarding schools. I learned the Tibetan, I learned the Chinese, and I also learned the English of there. The system is not only give me the knowledge, it's also helped me to broaden my horizon. I want to say I am a true beneficiary of the system of the boarding school. But sometimes I just wonder that why right now there are so many misconceptions about it. The boarding school in Xizang is really, really good. It's benefited a lot of people in the older society, and most of the Tibetan people were illiterate. The right of the education is just belong to the upper class people or a few monks. It has nothing to do with the people. But right now, with the strong support of the government, Xizang has the very comprehensive educational system.
What is the core spirit of Tibetan culture?
I think it's about the compassion and inclusiveness and about the kindness. And I think the other one is like about the gratitude. These are the most trait of the culture.
This year marks the 75th anniversary of the peaceful liberation of Xizang. If you would describe what the past 75 years meant for people of Xizang in just one sentence, what would you say?
Well, one sentence, can I say two sentences? I think these 75 years have seen the Tibetan people moving from, backwardness and isolation to like openness and progress, and from having no control over their lives and to mastering their fate. You know that right now they live a very ideal and hopeful and fulfilling life.
That was Dr. Sonam Drolma from China Tibetology Research Center. Prior to the democratic reforms in Xizang, generations of Tibetan women were barred from politics and public affairs while shouldering the bulk of strenuous household chores. Modern development in Xizang, particularly in power infrastructure, has empowered local women, lifting them out of long-standing structural inequality and ushering in a brand new way of life. Li Yunqi reports.
People in Xizang share a deep connection with Tibetan yak. Its meat is staple food. Its milk is turned into butter for Tibetan tea, and the animals themselves are often draped in colorful decorations. But perhaps most remarkably, its dung serves as a valuable fuel that helps families survive the harsh plateau winters. However, the task of collecting this fuel in freezing weather was unevenly distributed in old Xizang. Women were the ones doing most of the heavy lifting. 84-year-old Chasalamu recalls her youth.
Before we had electricity in our village, we collected yak dung and firewood for heating. Most girls in the village started doing this as teenagers. I can't remember the exact age, probably around 13 or 14.
65-year-old Gezhen didn't begin this work until she was an adult, but it was still far from easy.
Sometimes I would spend an entire day collecting just to fill one basket. It's not easy to find the dung, so I had to trek deep into the mountains.
Any physical labor on the plateau is far more demanding than at lower altitudes. Before the democratic reforms in Xizang, men were often out of the picture during this hard labor. Associate researcher Xiang Silong of the Xizang Academy of Social Sciences explains that women's heavy labor burden stemmed from deep-rooted structural inequality of the old society.
Discrimination against women is well documented in historical archives. There were two legal codes from the 16th and 17th centuries. The 16th Article Code issued by the Sanba Desi regime and the 13th Article Code by the Ganden Potwan regime. Both stated that a woman's life weighs no more than a rope of grass. They also listed other occupations that Tibetan Buddhism at the time considered as improper livelihoods.
After the peaceful liberation, and especially the democratic reforms in Xizang, women began to break free from these social shackles. But transforming underdeveloped infrastructure takes just as much time as changing people's minds. Chinese engineers spent decades modernizing the power grid in Xizang, bringing Tibetans convenience and dignity. Zhang Peng is an official with the Energy Bureau of the Autonomous Region.
Today, Xizang's clean energy is not only self-sufficient, it's being transmitted to 19 provinces and regions across China.
Life for Tibetan women today is vastly different. Keeping warm in winter no longer requires collecting yak dung in freezing weather. Now, it's as simple as flipping a switch. Tibetans still keep yak dung around their villages, out of habit, as decoration, or as a reminder to honor the past. But it is no longer a matter of survival. For the Beijing Hour, this is Liu Yunqi.
Xizang Autonomous Region is one of the healthiest environments in the world. During China's 14th five-year plan that ended last year, the country designated more than half of Xizang's total land area for safeguarding. The region's forest coverage rate and vegetation coverage on grasslands increased during the period. Water quality in the region also improved. Since 2016, days with excellent or good air quality reached over 99% annually. Xizang's established 47 nature reserves. The region created an average of 516,000 environmental protection jobs annually from 2016 to 24. China implemented a law in 2023 specifically focused on ecological protection on the Qinghai-Xizang Plateau. We asked Nachu National Field Station Director Zheng Yongjian about the significance of the rule of law in protecting the ecosystem.
This law prescribes that the local and central government they plays a leading role
in coordinating related departments and agents. So through this mode, ecological protection on the Tibetan Plateau can be strictly enforced. Second one, the law stipulates that eco-environment on the Tibetan Plateau needs to be protected in a comprehensive manner. Like we should include mountain, water, forest, cropland, lake, and grassland and ice. So this approach is more nature-based. We all emphasize nature-based solution to our ecosystem management. Third, this law tells the international community that China is a responsible country in coping with global change. That's our voice to the worldwide.
The Nachu National Field Station that Zheng works at monitors long-term ecological and environmental changes in northern Xizang to provide science-backed support for sustainable development. During his 15 years in Xizang, Zheng said he witnessed many changes in the region, including greening under less human activity, the rapid recovery in wildlife populations, and especially in western Xizang, and he said the water is cleaner. Xizang's also undergone huge transformation over the past 75 years. So one achievement driving this change is the Qinghai-Xizang Railway that stretches across snow-covered mountains. By overcoming extreme geographical challenges and ending long-standing isolation, the railway has become a powerful symbol of Xizang's rapid development, opening a new chapter of greater connectivity, economic growth, and broader regional progress. Xu Xinchen reports.
The Qinghai-Xizang Railway stretches over 1,900 kilometers from Xining to Lhasa, ascending to an altitude of over 5,000 meters at Tanggula Pass, quite literally rising above the clouds. But the true engineering achievement lies in how the railway was constructed. The extreme altitude poses another major obstacle. Oxygen levels along parts of the route are so low that even basic breathing becomes difficult for both construction workers and passengers.
It was very difficult. We lived in a tent. When I was working, my head and my body were covered with sand. In the morning, we had sand in our eyes and in our noses.
But the hardship has paid off. Over the past 20 years, the railway has carried out more than 40 million passenger trips and transported over 100 million tons of cargo. Train services have increased from just 5 pairs to 17 today, cutting logistics costs by around 60%.
As a vital gateway for Xizang's opening up, sound station services and efficient operations have directly boosted explosive growth in passenger flows. The average daily passenger volume has soared from 3,000 in the initial operation period to 10,000 nowadays, showcasing the leapfrog development of railway passenger transport in Xizang.
And today, this line has completely transformed travel into Xizang. From isolation to access, journeys that once took days can now be made by train safely and comfortably, and even at extreme altitudes.
Inside these trains, pressurized cabins and onboard oxygen systems keep passengers safe at high altitude. The railway has also been upgraded with continuously welded tracks, improving comfort and reducing maintenance challenges.
That was Xu Xinchen reporting on a safe and smooth ride on the Qinghai-Xizang Railway. Coming up, China's marking the International Day for Biological Diversity.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
24 past the hour. Friday is the International Day for Biological Diversity, and this year's focus is acting locally for global impact, urging everyone to take action to halt and reverse biodiversity loss. China's updated its Catalog of Life China. It now includes more than 155,000 species. Compared with last year's checklist, there are 3,380 more animal species and 431 more more plant species. China says it's made significant progress in biodiversity conservation through the development of a nature reserve system led by national parks, along with wildlife and plant conservation projects. More than 200 rare and endangered wild animal species are now in a stage of recovery, while over 100 endangered wild plant species are under protection. China's National Forestry and Grassland Administration says the country recorded more than 6 million wintering water birds this year, marking the highest total recorded in the nationwide monitoring program. In the Three Gorges Reservoir area, conservation projects have protected more than 2,000 rare plant species and over 32,000 individual plants, with survival rates exceeding 90%. Yunnan's the most biodiverse province in China. It also is a global lichen diversity hotspot. Only a handful of scientists in China study them, though. One researcher spent more than 40 years building the foundation for lichen science in the country. Tao Yuan has the story.
Up until the mid-19th century, scientists got it wrong. For a long time, lichens were thought to be plants. And in China, the understanding of what they truly are came much later. Wang Lisong is one of few lichen researchers in China. Over the decades, he's traveled to some of the harshest environments in the country to collect specimens and study them.
Lichens are relatively simple organisms. They can compete with big trees or flowering plants, so they survive in places like high mountains or the middle of deserts, extreme environments where other life forms cannot survive. I like their resilience.
Lichens are known as some of the toughest lives on Earth. They're not one species, but a symbiosis between a fungus and a photosynthetic partner, usually algae or cyanobacteria. At the Kunming Institute of Botany, Chinese Academy of Sciences, Wang Lisong has helped build a world-class lichen herbarium. More than 100,000 species are stored here, and 80% were collected by himself.
When you observe lichens closely, you begin to see textures and colors unlike anything else. They completely shatter our understanding of color and structure.
Even today, lichen research in China is still at a relatively early stage. Wang Lisong is still out there in the field, climbing trees, crossing rivers, and scraping rocks. He says the work is still pretty basic, but everything starts from here.
I compare the herbarium to a bank. If we don't even know how much money we have in our own hands, then everything else is just empty talk.
China, especially the Southwest, is a global lichen diversity hotspot. An estimated 30,000 species of lichens grow here, but less than a tenth is recorded.
The less we study them, the less we understand them. The fewer applications we discover, the less attention they receive. We have such valuable and diverse biological resources here. If we don't study and understand them ourselves, I think that would be a real shame.
At 63 years of age, Wang Lisong has already retired, but he's still trying to reach a personal goal of collecting 100,000 lichen specimens in his lifetime.
I hope to pass these 100,000 specimens on to the next generation, so they can build on them and add even more information.
And despite the cold, the altitude, or the heat in the desert, Wang Lisong says he has the best job in the world. And out here, in places where most life can't survive, he found something worth a lifetime.
That was Tao Yuan reporting. We're at 29 minutes past the hour. Checking the forecast out of the break, and Beijing will see a light rainfall and a low of 17 this evening. It's cloudy and 27 on Saturday. Shanghai will see a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow, a low of 21 and a high of 29. Chongqing will see a light rainfall and a low of 23, then heavier rainfall, it's moderate rain and 32. And Nanchang will see moderate rainfall and 24 overnight, and that's followed by thunder showers and a high of 30. Lhasa will be cloudy through tomorrow, a low of 11 and a high up to 25 degrees. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's cloudy and 23, a high of 35 for Saturday. Vientiane will see moderate rainfall, easing to light tomorrow with a low of 25 and a high of 31. Phnom Penh's getting a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow, a low of 26 and a high of 36. In Africa, Nairobi is getting a light rainfall and a high of 24 on Saturday. Kampala is getting a light rainfall through tomorrow. The low is 19, the high is 26 degrees. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, China's hosting hundreds of representatives representatives and business delegates from the 21 APEC economies in the city of Suzhou. China will be marking the 75th anniversary of the peaceful liberation of the Xizang region, also known as Tibet, on Saturday. And China's announced significant environmental progress as the country marks the International Day for Biological Diversity. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
From the refreshing cup of tea that starts your morning to the paper that you write on, the roots of many familiar parts of modern life can be traced back to ancient ideas. Join us on Made in Ancient China and discover how ideas born millennia ago became some of the world's greatest treasures. Made in Ancient China brings you stories of human ambition, inspiration, and connection. Now available on all major podcast platforms. Shh, listen up.
Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. Right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Friday. Still to come. In business, China's economy shows vitality despite a few fluctuations in the April numbers. In sports, Cristiano Ronaldo finally earns a bit of hardware in the Saudi League. In culture and entertainment, a preview of the World Cup halftime show. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account at CGTN Radio. Now to check the day's headlines, here's Tianyu.
Thank you, Shane. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has reaffirmed the strength of the all-weather strategic cooperative partnership between Pakistan and China. He addressed an event marking the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries. Sharif said the friendship between Pakistan and China has steadily evolved into a robust partnership built on mutual trust, sovereign equality, and shared aspirations for peace and development. He said the relationship has continued to grow in strength and strategic significance amid changing regional and global dynamics. The latest Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo has spread to South Kivu province. The March 23 movement rebel group confirmed a new case in Bukavu on Thursday. The DRC has so far recorded over 620 suspected cases and more than 150 probable deaths since declaring its 17th outbreak on May the 15th. In Rampara, people set fire to a local Ebola treatment center after being stopped from retrieving the body of a local man who died of the disease. They said they wanted to take the body home and hold a proper burial. Authorities are managing the work of burying suspected victims amid worries that the bodies could lead to further spread. The WHO has warned that the number of cases may keep rising. UN humanitarians say the aid community in Sudan is fighting to contain outbreaks of several diseases amid insecurity and access challenges. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says the WHO and its partners in West Kordofan are responding to a suspected outbreak of diarrhea, commonly associated with cholera. The area reported over 100 suspected cases and dozens of deaths this week. Humanitarians are also working with health authorities to address suspected Mpox outbreaks in Central and South Darfur states. The WHO and health partners have responded to dengue fever outbreaks in northern and River Nile states. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric says the health emergencies are unfolding as insecurity continues to endanger civilians and humanitarian operators.
In South Kordofan, multiple drone strikes in and around Dilling yesterday reportedly killed at least 2 people and injured several others. One strike reportedly damaged a health facility and destroyed medical supplies and equipment. Our partners are also reporting that 2 frontline health workers were killed due to shelling in Dilling earlier this month.
Dujarric says the humanitarian community has provided assistance to over 1.6 million people across Sudan over the first 4 months of the year.
The UK Office for National Statistics says net migration to the country fell by nearly half last year. The difference between the number of people entering and leaving the country for at least 12 months was over 170,000 in 2025. The figure was down 48% from more than 330,000 in 2024, marking the lowest level since 2021. The office said a drop in non-European Union arrivals for work and fewer dependents accompanying international students and workers amid tighter visa rules drove the decrease. The Labour government has vowed to cut migration and reduce the use of asylum hotels. The number of asylum seekers housed in hotels fell by 35% to over 20,000 at the end of March. And finally, the New York mayor has announced 1,000 affordable tickets to upcoming World Cup matches in the city, and New Jersey will be set aside and made available to residents of New York. Zoran Mamdani says a lottery system will decide which applicants will receive the tickets, and that there will be systems ensuring that those receiving tickets are indeed New York residents. This year's World Cup, co-hosted by the US, Canada, and Mexico, kicks off on June the 11th.
All right, thank you very much. That's Tian Yu with headlines. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in business, China's economy shows vitality despite a few fluctuations in the April numbers.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
At 36 past now, stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Friday. The Shanghai Composite was up nearly 0.9%. The Shenzhen Component jumped by 2.3%. Cultivated diamonds and CPO sectors led the gainers, while those related to liquor and securities firms suffered the biggest losses. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index also ended higher, and it was up around 0.9. In Japan, the Nikkei rose nearly 2.7%. China's National Development and Reform Commission says that despite some fluctuations in economic indicators in April, the overall trend of stable operation and high-quality development continues. From January to April, new growth drivers strengthened, with the high-tech manufacturing sector seeing rapid growth in added value, investment, exports, and profits. The added value of large-scale high-tech manufacturing enterprises rose 12.6% from last year, and high-tech product exports accounted for more than one-fourth of total exports. Efforts to curb fierce competition have taken effect, with prices in certain sectors stabilizing and rebounding. The Commission said it'll use macroeconomic policies to stabilize employment, enterprises, markets, and expectations. Electric vehicles are among China's fastest-growing exports, and now they're taking one of the world's highest trade routes to market. Thousands of Chinese EVs are crossing the mountains into Nepal through a Tibetan border city. Yu Hongyu went inside Shigatse in Xizang Autonomous Region to find out what's driving this trade boom.
Nearly 4,000 meters above sea level. Here in Shigatse in Xizang, one could hear engines and air brakes, the daily rhythm of trucks rolling in. This is perhaps the last place on Earth you would expect a trade boom. Doji has been driving this route for 20 years. He remembers when the job was far harder in the past.
Cars are way better now compared to before, and the roads are great too. It used to take around 4 days to get from Lhasa to Jiangmu Port. Now it's much easier. It just takes about 2 to 1.5 days.
Doji says the cargo has changed too. It's no longer just small items, but smart electronics and sleek electric vehicles. These cars were made in eastern China. In just 10 days, they'll be at Kathmandu, Nepal, on the other side of those mountains. This is Shigatse International Land Port, and business here is booming. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, Shigatse's export volume of new energy vehicles surged by over 25% year-on-year. For buyers, the appeal is obvious.
Yeah, I like it. Chinese brand car is very easily drive, and we can buy parts also. We can get easily and near the Nepal.
Speed is also part of the story. At the port, a single customs scan now takes 2 to 3 minutes start to finish. No unloading, no repacking. Inside here, goods from across China. Small merchandise, special Tibetan products, auto parts, everything is staged, sorted, and ready to head south over the Himalayas. But this road runs both ways. While Chinese EVs roll into Nepal, Nepali herbs, clothing, and traditional crafts are quietly finding buyers inside China.
2号链接哪个颜色好
Neat 边巴卓玛, she spotted the opportunity early. Back in 2019, she teamed up with a Nepali trader named Sirin Nima and opened a Nepali goods store right here on the border.
Locals enjoy an 8,000 yuan daily duty-free quota, saving over 3,000 yuan in taxes monthly. Since few Nepalese do live streaming, I help sell their goods this way with great success.
She gathers sits at the crossroads of overland routes into Nepal and beyond into Southeast Asia, one of the fastest growing consumer markets. 5 of Xizang's 6 overland trade ports are located right here. In 2025, the region's total goods trade reached about 8.5 billion yuan, nearly $1.25 billion, spanning 155 countries and regions. This used to feel like the end of the line. Now it's becoming a regional hub, one truck, one scam, one mountain pass at a time.
That was Yu Hongyu reporting. The 4th China International Supply Chain Expo will open in Beijing from June 22nd to the 26th. And this year's event features 7 zones, including smart technology, advanced manufacturing, green agriculture, and supply chain services. So far, nearly 680 companies from 85 countries and regions have confirmed participation, with foreign exhibitors making up over 36%. And more than 65% of participants are Fortune 500 companies or industry leaders. The expo will see over 60 business exchange activities, such as the launch of the 2026 Global Supply Chain Promotion Report. It'll also showcase traditional industry upgrades, emerging sectors, AI applications, and a special low-altitude economy zone in advanced manufacturing. Launched in 2023, it's the world's first national-level expo focused on supply chain cooperation. China has introduced 20 new measures to support the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area, focusing on regulation, innovation, and new business models. The measures streamline cross-border vehicle inspections and speed clearance for fresh agricultural products entering the mainland via Hong Kong and Macau. They also simplify procedures for biomedical research materials and expand positive list items to boost sci-tech development and innovation across borders. Director Zheng Geping of the General Administration of Customs in Guangdong said the measures boost innovation to upgrade regional industries.
We are piloting a self-declaration model allowing eligible entities to enjoy tariff benefits after finishing declaration to improve supply chain efficiency for integrated circuits, new display devices, and other industries. By simplifying customs procedures for biomedical and other research materials and building technical measures to trade research and evaluation bases, we aim to support industrial upgrading in the Greater Bay Area through scientific and technological innovation.
In 2025, the GBA's 9 mainland cities reached a total import-export value of over 9 trillion yuan, or roughly $1.3 trillion US dollars. First 4 months of the year hit 3.4 trillion yuan, up 18.4%, contributing 1/4 of national trade growth. The Western China International Fair for Investment and Trade in Chongqing is opened. Already, participants have signed over 200 contracts, totaling over 150 billion yuan. Themed New Western China, New Manufacturing, New Services. The fair runs until Sunday, with nearly 40 symposiums and trade matchmaking events. Projects cover sectors from advanced materials to energy, with 57 deals exceeding 1 billion yuan in investment. The fair has attracted around 1,400 companies from 50 countries and regions, with Britain as the guest of honor. Organizers also released the Invest in Chongqing list of opportunities, featuring 277 projects in manufacturing, green development, and the digital economy. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization International Logistics Park in Lianyungang handled a record of over 240,000 containers in the first 4 months of the year. This marks an over 8% increase compared to the same period last year. Total logistics volume exceeded 30 million metric tons, and that's up over 17%. Officials said the growth highlights the park's rising role in international trade and regional logistics development. China's leading on-demand delivery platform, Meituan, has completed over 900,000 commercial drone deliveries, ranking second globally, while U.S. Zipline has over 2 million orders. Vice President Mao Yinyan said Meituan focuses on proper business development, technology milestones, and operational efficiency rather than strict speed-based profit targets. Short-distance deliveries within 3 to 5 kilometers aim for under 15-minute arrival, with long-distance routes still needing optimization. Mao noted that Shenzhen leads low-altitude logistics in China, with the most drone routes and diverse operating scenarios. He said human-machine collaboration will remain the main model for urban low-altitude deliveries over the next 3 to 5 years. Meituan's expanded domestic and international operations, covering medical, emergencies, and high-value deliveries. China's civil aviation sector handled over 61 million passenger trips in April, and that's up 0.4% from last year. Domestic routes carried over 54 million passengers, down 0.2%, while international routes handled nearly 7 million, and that was up 5.8%. Cargo and mail transport reached 854,000 tons, up almost 7%. Officials said the growth highlights steady recovery in air travel and strong expansion of international cargo services. Yunnan Agricultural University in southwest China has partnered with Starbucks China to train talent and strengthen Yunnan's coffee industry. The partnership will integrate academic research with industrial resources, offering internships, career guidance, and research collaboration in coffee science and engineering. The university has strong expertise in coffee breeding and cultivation technology. Yunnan had coffee plantations covering 97,500 hectares with a green bean output of around 139,000 metric tons in 2025, leading the country in scale production and industry value. The province exported 19,000 metric tons of coffee beans and finished products worth 860 million yuan to 43 countries, including the Netherlands, Vietnam, and Germany. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, Cristiano Ronaldo finally has some hardware in the Saudi League.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past, and turning to sports now. Here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. Manchester City has confirmed that manager Pep Guardiola will leave the club at the end of the season after 10 years in charge. Guardiola has led the City to 17 major trophies, including 6 Premier League titles and the club's first ever Champions League title. The 55-year-old's final game will be against Aston Villa at Etihad Stadium on Sunday. Former Chelsea manager Enzo Maresca is the front-runner to replace Guardiola. Also on Friday, Manchester United confirmed the appointment of Michael Carrick as their permanent head coach on a 2-year contract. Al Nassr were crowned Saudi champions after a 4-1 home victory over Denmark in Riyadh. This marks Cristiano Ronaldo's first major trophy with the club since joining in 2023. The Yellows finished 2 points ahead of rivals Al Hilal, claiming their first title since 2019 and their 11th overall. Sadio Mane, Kingsley Coman, and the emotional Ronaldo, who scored twice, led the charge. China will face Japan in the final of the AFC U17 Championship in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Captain Zhou Yunor says Team China is ready for the showdown.
Our whole team has the confidence and bravery to lift this trophy. We have done a lot for it. We will give 100% or even 200% effort in the final to fight for victory. Since we defeated Qatar in a must-win clash to make it out of Group A and qualify for the Under-17 World Cup, we have become an unstoppable team. Our victories over Saudi Arabia and Australia have only further convinced me that we can win the title.
China reached the final for the first time in 22 years, defeating Australia 2-0 in the semi-finals. The team previously won the tournament in 1992 and 2004. Meanwhile, China has already achieved a milestone by qualifying for the U17 World Cup, the men's team's first global tournament since 2005. FIFA has unveiled the draws for the U17 Men's and Women's World Cups. China's men's team is in Group H with Spain, Fiji and Morocco. In the Women's World Cup, China is in Group E with the United States, Samoa and an African representative. The event in Qatar runs from November 19th to December 13th, featuring 48 teams in 12 groups. Norway has announced its 26-man World Cup squad led by Manchester City striker Erling Haaland. Head coach Ståle Solbakken also called up Arsenal's Martin Odegaard and Atletico Madrid's Alexander Sørloth. Norway opens Group I against Iraq, then faces Senegal before a high-profile clash with France. Meanwhile, Germany unveiled its squad featuring the headline return of goalkeeper Manuel Neuer, who had retired from international football after Euro 2024. Coach Julian Nagelsmann has reiterated his ambition of leading Germany's national team to World Cup glory.
I've emphasized many times there is a crucial word in there. We want to become world champions. I said again recently. For me, there's still a difference between saying we will become world champions and we want to become world champions. And I believe that all the teams competing want that, and we also want that. That will take tremendous amount of effort, not just good performances, although those are paramount. A little bit of luck at the crucial moments is perfectly clear. But we want it.
The Germans kick off Group E in North America against the Curaçao in Houston on June 14th. In the NBA, the New York Knicks are 2 wins away from their first NBA Finals appearance since 1999, defeating the Cleveland Cavaliers 109-93 to take a 2-0 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals. Josh Hart scored a career playoff high 26 points, while Jalen Brunson added 19 points and 14 assists, and Karl Anthony Towns contributed 18 points and 13 rebounds. An 18-0 third-quarter run capped by Hart's three-pointer turned a tied game into an insurmountable lead. Donovan Mitchell led Cleveland with 26 points. Game 3 is Saturday night in Cleveland. And finally, in the CBA semifinals, the Shenzhen Leopards rolled past the defending champion Guangxia Lions 91-80, trimming Guangxia seriously to 2-1. 6 players scored in double figures, showcasing balanced offensive firepower. Ron Zifeng sparked Shenzhen early with 8 flawless points. Guangxia then fought back, led by finals MVP Barry Brown and Joshua Christopher's clutch threes, briefly seizing a 4-point advantage. But Shenzhen reclaimed control by the third quarter, with He Xining and Wang Haoran extending the lead to 10. A crucial rebound by Zhou Peng and He Xining's fast break finish sealed Leopards' 11-point triumph, setting the stage for Game 4 in Shenzhen on Saturday.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in culture and entertainment, a preview of the World Cup halftime show.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
At 53 past the hour. In culture and entertainment, the World Cup will feature a halftime performance headlined by Madonna, Shakira, and BTS. Junwei Sum has more.
July 19th. Already the biggest day on this year's football calendar. The kind of day that only comes around once every 4 years. And now FIFA has pulled out all the stops, announcing the first ever halftime show at a World Cup final, featuring 3 of the world's biggest pop acts.
How about Madonna? Yeah, everyone loves Madonna.
That is a fantastic idea.
Madonna, Shakira, BTS, brought together by Coldplay's Chris Martin.
Elmo and I were wondering if you guys might want to join us on July 19th.
We'll be there, Chris, for sure.
Football has never done this before. The idea borrowed directly from American sport.
To organize a World Cup is already incredible. To bring people together from the entire world is fantastic. We'll have 7 million people in the stadium. We will have 6 billion people watching the World Cup. And a couple of billion will watch the final.
FIFA may be counting on some of those billions to tune in for the stars as much as for the sport. In May, Shakira drew an estimated 2 million people to a free concert on Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro. The 7 members of BTS are drawing frenzied crowds across the world on their current tour, even pulling 50,000 fans to Mexico City's vast main square with just 5 hours' notice when Mexico's president hosted them. That kind of global reach is central to what FIFA is building. More fans watching means more revenue and a bigger platform for what it calls a greater purpose.
This song has been specifically created for the World Cup, but also for all those kids who don't have access to quality education.
But fans are grumbling about high ticket costs, and hotels in host cities say they're not seeing the level of demand they'd anticipated. Critics say FIFA needs to prove its business model works for both the federation and the fans.
That was Jun Wei Sum reporting. The Shanghai Natural History Museum held a special night camping event for the International Museum Day and China Tourism Day. The museum has set up over 100 tents across its exhibition zones, letting campers sleep beside fossils and specimens. Museum staff worked through the night to ensure safety and comfort, making the immersive overnight experience a hit with young visitors. The National Great Sage Cultural Arts Week and China Mountain Monkey King competition is kicked off at Wulongkou Scenic Area in Henan Province. The week-long festival brings together performers, scholars, tourism influencers, and visitors from across China to celebrate the timeless legacy of Journey to the West, the 16th century mythological classic that continues to inspire opera and artistic adaptations. At the opening ceremony, performers staged iconic productions such as Gathering of the Monkey Kings and The Real and Fake Monkey King on Monkey Mountain. Shanghai Media Group launched the See You in Shanghai performance season. The event features a blockbuster lineup, including the world premiere of Immersive Arcane, the farewell season of The Phantom of the Opera, and the China debut of the Tony Award-winning Moulin Rouge the Musical. Leading the season is Immersive Arcane, the world's first stage adaptation of the hit animated series Arcane League of Legends. Since its March debut, the show has captivated thousands across China, drawing gamers and animation fans from around the globe. The China Original Drama Invitational Exhibition runs from April to August, presenting 21 original works from state troops, private companies, and university ensembles. The festival highlights China's dramatic creativity and stylistic diversity. Standout works include Yan Shiji, tracing a century of Lingnan culinary culture, and When We Two Parted, exploring women's resilience through dual perspectives. 57 past now. Checking the forecast before we go. Beijing will see a light rainfall and 17 degrees overnight. It's cloudy and 27 on Saturday. Shanghai will see a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow, a low of 21 and a high of 29. Chongqing will see some rainfall tonight, a low of 23. Moderate rainfall tomorrow, the high is 32 Celsius. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, China's hosting hundreds of representatives and business delegates from the 21 APEC economies in the city of Suzhou. And China will be marking the 75th anniversary of the peaceful liberation of the Xizang region, also known as Tibet, on Saturday. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the Yellow River in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy, and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters, and what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river, and what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, Our reporters visited the upper, middle, and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen, and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts, and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio